Jai Janendra, and hey everyone! My name is Nurali. I am a practicing Jain and I'm American. Today I'm going to tell you how all of that works. I don't consider myself the best Jain in the world, but I don't consider myself the worst. I'm extremely fortunate to have had an education in Jainism while living in America and to have been raised Jain. This definitely makes it easier for me to practice Jainism than someone who has recently converted or doesn't have the resources that I do. This is why a year ago today I made a video called Jainism Basics, which outlines some of the fundamental principles of Jainism. But I did not go into how that translates into real life. So today I am making this video to show you how I practice Jainism in America, and maybe you can glean some ways to practice as well. So, as with any religion, prayer is a big part of practicing Jainism. Like I said, I've been lucky enough to learn a lot about Jainism, from stutis and stavans to Chaityavandan and Samayik. However, one thing everyone should know is the Navkar mantra, which I say every single day, probably multiple times a day, all the time in my head. If you came from Jainism Basics, you know how it goes, but here's a refresher if you need it. Namo Arihantanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Uvajjayanam, Namo Loe Sava Sahunam, Eso Panchana Mokaro, Sava Pava Panasunao, Mangala Nantra Save Sim, Padamam Have Mangalam. As you already know, this bows down to the 5 supreme spiritual leaders in Jainism: Arihant, Siddh, Acharya, Upadhyaya, and Sarva Sadhus. So that is the main prayer, but how and when do I pray? Like I said before, I say the Navkar mantra all of the time, but there are specific places for prayer. At my childhood home, we have a Ghar Derasar. Ghar, G-H-A-R, means home, and Derasar, D-E-R-A-S-A-R, means temple. So, home, temple. And this means we have a little room dedicated to prayer where we house our murtis, M-U-R-T-I, or statues of the various bhagavans, or gods, that we pray to. While many Jains dedicate a space in their home to pray, like my parents did, many don't have the space or supplies, which is totally fine. I personally have a little corner of my bedroom where I have images of bhagavans that I can pray to. Also, many Jains are Sthanakvasis and don't use murtis to pray. So outside of the home, where do people go to pray? Where are the derasars? I have been to many derasars in America in my lifetime, including the first one ever to be in the United States, the Jain Center of America in Queens, New York. I've also been to many in New Jersey, including the first ever established tirth outside of India, Siddhachalam. There is also a great resource for finding Jain temples in North America, yes, including Canada, on jainatemples.org. I'll leave the link in the description. As a Jain, I've been raised on a vegetarian diet, and I try to be pure vegetarian. This means eating an eggless diet along with a meat-free diet. However, I am partial to desserts at restaurants, and I am not at all perfect at this part. The reason why I maintain a vegetarian diet is because of one of the 3 major tenets of Jainism: ahimsa, or nonviolence. There are more things I could do in terms of diet. There are a variety of restrictions you can make to your diet that are considered Jain. The most common of these is eliminating potatoes, onions, garlic, and all root vegetables from your diet. There are big reasons for these restrictions, just like there are big reasons for keeping kosher or halal. I actually do know a lot of Jains in America that don't eat root vegetables. But like I said, I'm not the best Jain and I'm not the worst. And I am a firm believer that it is not up to anyone to police anyone else's diet. If you would like to learn more about the various Jain diets, let me know and I might just make a video about it. The reason why I have so much knowledge about Jainism is because I went to Paathshala. P-A-T-H-S-H-A-L-A. This simply translates to school, but in this context, I'm talking, of course, about religious classes. From birth until the beginning of high school, my Friday nights, yes, my Friday nights were booked up because I would go to learn about Jainism. Since I started at such a young age, so much of what I learned has stuck with me and probably will for life. One of the major reasons for that is that Jainism is told through stories, through allegories like that of the blind men and the elephant. If you follow me at all outside of this Jainism series, you know that storytelling is my favorite thing in the world. And narrative sticks to people like super glue. Its impact is truly incredible. Hopefully soon I will be able to share some of these stories with you. Since I did it for so long, I literally grew up with the people in my Paathshala class, and some of them are still my closest friends till date. Many of the Derasars I mentioned before have Paathshala programs, but even if they don't, my experience is that people are more than willing to impart knowledge to curious learners. My mom would attend Paathshala class every single week with us, and she ended up learning more in Paathshala in America than she ever did in India. And after my Paathshala teacher moved to India, my mom started a class herself because so many people asked her to, and she is still learning. I don't think I can talk about my experience with Jainism without mentioning Paryushan, the biggest holiday in the Jain religion. It is a holiday of penance that lasts 8 days. This is when I am a really good Jain. I fast, I follow one of the strictest versions of the Jain diet with the help of Paryushan meals. Check it out if you are in the New York or New Jersey area, link in the description. I drink boiled water, I do pratikraman every night that I can, I do puja every day that I can. While Paryushan is of course primarily about asking for forgiveness and serving penance for all of the wrongs you've done, for me it's also a celebration of my Jain heritage and my Jain religion. It's when I practice it the best, and honestly it's when the whole Jain community really comes together in a visible fashion. I see everyone all of the time in those 8 days, and it's honestly beautiful. It's one of my favorite times of year, which is strange because I am restricting myself that time of year. There are many other things that I do that fall under the practicing Jainism umbrella. For example, I wear this Raksha Potli right here. This is a little red bracelet that you have seen in every single video, unless I was wearing long sleeves and you couldn't see it, or I was wearing my gold one, which broke off quite a few months ago now. It's simply a holy bracelet, I suppose, that indicates that I am a spiritual person. It doesn't necessarily indicate that I am Jain to other people, because Hindus also use something similar, as do many other Indian religions. But I know that it came from a Derasar and that it is holy, and that's really what matters. Also, I don't kill things. As you already know, one of the major tenets of Jainism is ahimsa, or nonviolence. Because of this, I've never purposely killed an ant or crushed a spider in fear. Instead, I've learned to coax it onto a piece of paper and then take it outside and brush it off gently so that it can survive outside, away from me. Yes, I do all of this while panicking because nonviolence does not mean fearlessness, but at least I'm letting another being live. And it's one of the tiny ways that I practice Jainism in my daily life. One final other thing, and one that I'm extremely bad at, is cleanliness. Yes, the cleanliness is next to godliness trope is also in Jainism. A Jain household is typically very clean, as most households are. We should endeavor not to let food spoil because organisms would grow out of it that you would eventually have to kill. Same goes for sweeping floors and generally being clean. You don't want to attract bacteria or any other life form that you do not want there, because you're eventually going to harm it, and that goes against ahimsa. Cleanliness. I'm trying, but it's hard. It's hard. Basically, we don't want to have to harm any life, so it's better not to let that life start in the first place. Of course, there are many other ways to practice Jainism, and in the spirit of Anekantvad, there is no one right way to practice Jainism. The greatest way to practice Jainism, in my opinion, is to have belief. Believe in the principles and understand why you do what you do. To me, belief is learning as much as you possibly can and thinking critically and figuring out what works for you before believing. I would love to hear how you practice Jainism in the comments down below. So that is it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Sources I used in making this video and other things I mentioned will all be linked in the description down below. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or corrections, I'm always more than willing to hear what you have to say in the comments down below. You can also find me on Twitter and Tumblr at Firewood Sparkler. And if you would like, you can support my channel and content like this by heading on over to my Patreon. I make weekly videos on a wide variety of topics. On a final note, I'd like to take a moment to thank you all so much for your support of my Jainism Basics series. The original video now has over 10,000 views, and it's because of wonderful people like you who are curious and want to learn more about my obscure religion. It's been exactly a year to date, and I never thought it would be this popular. I was so incredibly nervous about making that video, and you have given me the confidence to speak to my experience. Because of this, I have made a few videos on Jainism, and you can watch them all on a handy little playlist that I will link down below and probably in that I button that is in one of these corners. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you guys next time with a new video. Bye!